A mansion so big it has its own zip code, a business empire worth more than most NBA teams, and a man who grew up so poor his family had to share one bed, and now owns an entire neighborhood in the richest city in the South. Most people think Atlanta's money belongs to the rappers, the ones you see on Instagram with the Maybachs and the marble floors. But the richest black NBA player in Atlanta doesn't make music. He doesn't need to. While the rappers are renting mansions for music videos, this man owns the buildings they're filming in front of. We're going deep today. The house, the businesses, the cars, the story of how a kid from the projects ended up as one of the wealthiest men in Atlanta, and why almost nobody talks about him the way they should. Wait until you get to the end, because the number on this man's net worth is going to make you put your phone down. Before we get into the house and the money, let's make sure we're talking about the right man. Atlanta has had a lot of NBA players pass through. Some bought mansions, spent everything, and disappeared. Others were smarter. They treated their NBA checks like seed money, the starting point, not the finish line. The richest of them all is Dominique Wilkins. Now, if you're under 30, you might know the name, but not the full story. So let's fix that right now. Because Dominique Wilkins is not just a former basketball player. He is an Atlanta institution. A man who arrived in this city as a teenager, never left, and spent the next 4 decades building an empire inside it. His net worth sits at an estimated $40 million and climbing. But the number almost doesn't matter. What matters is what the number is built on. Real estate, business ownership, brand partnerships, community investment. This isn't NBA money that got recycled into watches and cars. This is generational wealth built brick by brick over 40 years in one city. And Atlanta loved him back. They didn't just cheer for him on the court. They handed him their business, their trust, their loyalty. This is his story, the origin, where it started: Paris, France, 1960. Dominique Wilkins was born there while his father was stationed overseas in the US military. If you didn't know that, you're not alone. Most people assume he's a Georgia native because Atlanta claimed him so completely. But he came into the world in Europe, moved back to the States, and grew up in Washington, in North Carolina, a small town that most people have never heard of and couldn't find on a map. Washington, North Carolina in the 1960s and 70s was not an easy place to grow up black. It was small. It was poor. Resources were thin, and opportunity was thinner. Dominique was one of 11 children. Read that again. 11 kids in one house. His mother, Gertrude, was the backbone of that family. She kept the lights on, kept the kids fed, kept everyone moving forward through sheer force of will. Money was not something the Wilkins family had extra of. It was something they managed carefully just to survive. Dominique understood from a very young age that nothing was coming for free. If he wanted something better, he was going to have to go get it himself. Basketball was how he was going to get it. From the moment Dominique picked up a ball, and something was obvious. This wasn't a kid who was good at basketball. This was a kid who was built for it. At 6'8", with arms that seemed to go on forever, and a vertical leap that made coaches do double takes, he was doing things in high school that grown men couldn't do on television. By the time he graduated, he was the most recruited player in the country. He chose the University of Georgia. And Athens changed everything. The college years. Athens to Atlanta. At UGA, Dominique didn't just play basketball. He announced himself to the world. He averaged over 21 points a game in his first season. By his junior year, he was on every draft board in the NBA. He was so dominant, so spectacular, so visually unlike anything the college game had seen, that he earned a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life: the human highlight film. Not because someone gave him the name, because he earned it every single night. Every game there was a dunk, a move, a play that made arenas go completely silent for 1 second before they erupted. He wasn't just scoring, he was performing. He was showing people something they had never seen before. In 1982, he declared for the NBA draft. The Utah Jazz selected him 3rd overall. Utah. Cold, white, about as far from the culture of the South as you can get. Dominique wasn't having it. He held out. He refused to play for Utah. He made clear he wanted to be somewhere that felt like home, somewhere with soul. The Atlanta Hawks saw their opportunity and they took it. They traded 2 players in cash for the rights to Dominique Wilkins. It was the greatest trade in Hawks history. The moment Dominique put on that red and white uniform, Atlanta fell in love. Not the polite kind of love, the ride or die kind. The city adopted him immediately. He was young, he was electric, and he played like every single game was Game 7. And he was home. He had never lived in Atlanta before, but the city fit him immediately. The warmth, the culture, the energy, the way Black Atlanta moved and built and celebrated. It matched everything inside him. He signed his first big NBA contract and made a decision that separated him from almost every other player of his generation. He stayed. Here's something most NBA players do not do. They don't put roots down. They get traded, they move, they follow the money. They follow the rings. Cities are temporary stops for most professional athletes. They rent expensive apartments, buy a car, spend 2 or 3 years, and then they're gone. And the city never really belongs to them, and they never really belong to the city. Dominique Wilkins did the opposite. From the moment he got to Atlanta, he started buying. Not shoes, not jewelry, not nightclub tables, land, property, buildings. In the 1980s, Atlanta real estate was not what it is today. The prices were nothing compared to now. But Dominique saw what was coming. He grew up poor enough to understand that owning land was the difference between families that stayed poor and families that built something. His mother didn't own land. She worked hard every day of her life and still had nothing to pass down because she never owned the ground beneath her. Dominique was not going to repeat that. While his teammates were buying flashy things that lose value the second you walk them out of the store, Dominique was quietly buying Atlanta, piece by piece, year by year. When his playing career eventually took him to other teams, a brief stint with the Clippers, time in Boston, Athens and Greece, he always came back. Atlanta was the base. Atlanta was the investment. Atlanta was the plan. That loyalty paid off in ways that no championship ring could match. The house. What home looks like when you've earned it. Let's talk about where Dominique Wilkins lives, because the house tells you everything about the man. He lives in Buckhead. If you don't know Atlanta, let me explain what Buckhead means. Buckhead is where Atlanta's serious money lives. Not new money trying to look rich. Old money that doesn't need to prove anything. Doctors, lawyers, corporate CEOs, the people who run this city from the background. Buckhead is quiet streets and massive trees and gates at the end of long driveways. It's the kind of neighborhood where you don't hear your neighbors because your neighbors are far enough away that you've almost forgotten they exist. Dominique's estate in Buckhead sits on several acres of land, the kind of space that doesn't exist in most American cities at any price. Atlanta is one of the last major cities where money can still buy real land close to the city center, and Dominique bought his a long time ago, before the prices went to the moon. The main house is a colonial-style estate. When you pull through the gates and roll down the driveway, the first thing that hits you is how permanent it looks. Not flashy. Not trying to be a hotel lobby or a music video set. It looks like a house that was built to stand for 100 years and doesn't care whether you're impressed or not. The exterior is all classic lines. White columns, manicured lawns, mature trees that have been growing since before some of Dominique's current business partners were born. The kind of landscaping that only exists if someone has owned a property long enough for nature to do its part. Step inside and the house wraps around you like a tailored suit. High ceilings in every room. Not the ridiculous 30-foot I need a crane to change, the light bulbs kind. The perfectly proportioned kind that makes every room feel like you can breathe. Natural light pours in through large windows that overlook the back lawn. The floors are hardwood throughout the main living areas, rich, warm, the kind that gets more beautiful as it gets older. The living room is built around a fireplace that anchors the whole space. Comfortable furniture arranged for actual conversation. No velvet ropes. No display cases of things that aren't meant to be touched. This is a house where people actually live, where grandchildren can run through the hallways and nobody panics. The kitchen is the heart of the ground floor, a massive island in the center. Professional-grade appliances, custom cabinetry. But the thing that tells you the most about Dominique is the breakfast nook. A small table tucked against a window overlooking the back lawn where he reportedly starts most mornings with coffee and his phone, checking his businesses before the day begins. Not on a gold throne. At a table by a window, like a man who never forgot where he came from. The primary suite is its own world. Vaulted ceiling. A bathroom with a walk-in shower and soaking tub finished in natural stone. Floor-to-ceiling windows that open onto a private terrace where the only sound in the morning is birds and wind. Outside, the property opens up into something special. A pool that extends from the back of the house toward the lawn like it grew there naturally. Not a theme park. Not a Acapulco situation with waterfalls and neon lights. A clean, elegant pool surrounded by stone and greenery that looks exactly right in this setting. The kind of pool where summer evenings happen slowly. A covered outdoor kitchen and entertainment area extends off the back of the house. Stone countertops, a serious grill setup, space for a crowd or for just a few close friends. Dominique is known for being generous with his home. Former Hawks players have talked about spending time at this house during the season. It's a place that gets used, not just photographed. There's also a private gym on the property. At 64 years old, Dominique Wilkins still moves like an athlete. His body went through war during his career, a torn Achilles tendon in 1992 that many believed would end him, only for him to come back and score 50 points in a playoff game 6 weeks later. He has never stopped working on his body, and the gym reflects that. Serious equipment, serious dedication. And then there's the garage. Dominique Wilkins is not a man who needs 50 cars to feel important. His collection is curated, intentional. Every car in that garage is there for a reason. His daily driver is a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Black, clean, no aftermarket rims, no unnecessary modifications. Just one of the most respected luxury sedans ever made, maintained perfectly. The S-Class is what serious money drives when serious money doesn't need to announce itself. It says everything without saying anything. He also keeps a Bentley Continental for occasions that call for it. Atlanta has events, charity galas, business dinners, award nights. When Dominique Wilkins walks into a room, people notice regardless of what he arrived in, but the Bentley matches the weight of those moments. Bentley Continental GT in dark blue or black, the color of someone who chose substance over flash. For weekends and leisure, there's an SUV, a Range Rover or Escalade depending on who you ask, built for Atlanta's long roads and occasional trips to properties outside the city, comfortable enough to spend 4 hours in without feeling it, big enough for family without being a production. What you won't find in Dominique's garage is a Lambo with a custom paint job sitting on 26-inch rims that never gets driven. That's not who he is. His car choices reflect the same philosophy as his real estate. Buy quality, maintain it properly, let it appreciate, and never buy anything just because someone else thinks you should. Here's where most NBA player stories end. The house, the cars, done. Dominique Wilkins' story is just getting started, because the house and the cars are the smallest parts of what he has built. The Hawks. For over 2 decades, Dominique Wilkins has been the face of the Atlanta Hawks organization even after his playing days ended. He has served as a team ambassador, a front office figure, a broadcaster, and the living symbol of what the Hawks mean to this city. His relationship with the Hawks organization is not just sentimental, it is financial. His role generates income that most people don't see or account for when they estimate his wealth. But more importantly, his association with the Hawks gives him something money can't always buy: legitimacy in every room in Atlanta. When Dominique Wilkins walks into a business meeting, he is not just a former basketball player. He is the face of Atlanta's NBA franchise. That opens doors that stay closed for almost everyone else. Real estate portfolio. This is the real foundation. Over 4 decades of buying in Atlanta, Dominique has accumulated a real estate portfolio that most people in this city don't fully know about. Commercial properties in areas of Atlanta that were undervalued when he bought them and have since exploded in value, and residential developments in neighborhoods that the rest of the city eventually caught up to. Atlanta real estate has been one of the greatest wealth-building vehicles in America for the last 30 years. The city has grown from a mid-sized southern capital into a global business hub. Film studios, tech companies, financial institutions, Fortune 500 headquarters. Every one of those arrivals pushed property values higher. Dominique was already in position. He bought when prices were low. He held when everyone else was distracted. And he has watched his investments multiply in value year after year, while his mortgage payments stayed the same. This is the oldest wealth-building strategy in the world, and Dominique used it better than almost any athlete of his generation. Sports industry work. After retiring, Dominique didn't disappear from the game. He became one of its most recognizable voices and faces. Broadcasting work, corporate speaking, brand ambassador roles. Every one of these revenue streams is built on the foundation of who he is, one of the top 50 players in NBA history, the man who made Atlanta love basketball, the human highlight film. His speaking fees alone for corporate events and motivational appearances generate serious income every year. Companies pay enormous money to have Dominique Wilkins in their room. He gives their event credibility. He gives their employees something to remember. That kind of access doesn't come cheap. Brand partnerships and endorsements. Dominique Wilkins has had a commercial relationship with Spalding that has lasted for years. His name is tied to basketball equipment that gets sold in stores across the country. Passive income from licensing deals like this is exactly the kind of revenue that builds real wealth. Money that comes in whether you're working that day or not. He has also maintained relationships with major Atlanta-based brands and corporations who use his image and name to connect with the city's culture and sports history. These deals are not the $100 million Nike situations. They are steady, reliable, long-term revenue streams that compound quietly over years. Golf. Here's something that tells you a lot about how Dominique operates. He is an obsessive golfer. Now you might be thinking, so what? Lots of rich people play golf. True. But golf at Dominique's level is not just a hobby. It is a business development tool that happens to be disguised as a leisure activity. The most important conversations in American corporate life happen on golf courses. Business deals get made, partnerships get formed, relationships get built during 4 hours on a fairway. Dominique plays regularly with business people, executives, former athletes who are now investors, and civic leaders across Atlanta and beyond. Every round is a potential business development meeting that nobody had to schedule through a corporate calendar. It is one of the most effective networking tools in existence, and Dominique has used it brilliantly throughout his post-playing career. The torn Achilles. The story that defines everything. We need to stop here for a moment. Because if you want to understand why Dominique Wilkins is who he is, why he built what he built, why he never stopped, why he has the mentality that he has, you need to understand what happened on January 28, 1992. The Hawks were playing the Philadelphia 76ers. Late in the game, Dominique went up for a routine play and came down wrong. He felt something tear in the back of his lower leg. He knew immediately. Every athlete who has ever experienced it knows. The Achilles tendon, the thick rope of tissue that connects your calf muscle to your heel bone, had snapped completely. Achilles tears are career-ending injuries. Not might end your career, career-ending. Especially for an explosive, high-flying player like Dominique, whose entire game was built on the ability to leap, to elevate, to get above everyone else in the gym. Without that tendon working properly, you can't do any of it. The basketball world wrote him off. Doctors gave cautious timelines. Analysts quietly suggested that even if he came back physically, the mental barrier of an injury that violent was almost impossible to fully overcome. Most players who tear their Achilles are never quite the same again. Their bodies might function, but something in them is different. The fearlessness is gone. Dominique Wilkins was back on the court in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Not 6 months. 6 weeks. And in his first game back, Game 7 of the first round of the playoffs against the Indiana Pacers, he scored 50 points. One game after coming back from the injury that was supposed to end him. 50 points in a playoff elimination game. The Pacers won on a late basket, and the Hawks were eliminated. Dominique's night ended in a loss. But nobody who watched that game remembers it as a loss. They remember it as one of the greatest individual performances in NBA history under the most impossible circumstances. Why does this matter to the wealth story? Because the same mind that brought Dominique Wilkins back from that injury and put up 50 points in a Game 7 is the same mind that built his business empire. The refusal to accept limits, the belief that setbacks are temporary, the ability to work through pain toward a goal that everyone else thinks is out of reach. You don't build 40 years of wealth in one city by accident. You build it by having the mentality of a man who came back from a torn Achilles in 6 weeks and dropped 50 in a playoff game. That is who Dominique Wilkins is. Boss, the community. Why Atlanta actually loves this man. There's rich, and then there's respected. A lot of people in Atlanta are rich. Very few have what Dominique Wilkins has, the genuine, deep loyalty of a city that has watched him for 4 decades and never once felt like he was using them. Dominique has been involved in the Atlanta community in ways that go far beyond writing checks. He has been present, physically, consistently, repeatedly present in the neighborhoods and institutions that need support. His work with youth basketball in Atlanta has given thousands of kids access to coaching, facilities, and mentorship that they wouldn't have had otherwise. When Dominique Wilkins shows up at a youth basketball clinic in Southwest Atlanta, it's not a photo opportunity. It's the man himself, on the floor, working with kids, showing them things, talking to them about more than just basketball. He has been involved with various charitable foundations focused on health, particularly diabetes awareness, a cause he has championed publicly because of its devastating impact on the Black community. He is open about the health challenges he has faced personally and uses his platform to make sure other people have better information than he did at their age. He has spoken at schools. He has mentored young business people. He has used his relationships and his reputation to open doors for people who couldn't open them themselves. In Atlanta, that kind of investment in the community compounds just like real estate does. It creates trust. Trust creates opportunity. Opportunity creates more wealth. The circle keeps going. There are business people in Atlanta today who gave Dominique Wilkins deals specifically because of what they watched him do for this city over 40 years. That's not sentiment. That's return on investment from community engagement. The Hawks connection, more than a job. Here's something that doesn't get enough attention. The Atlanta Hawks are now one of the most valuable NBA franchises on earth. The team that traded for Dominique Wilkins in 1982 for a couple of players and some cash is now worth $3 billion. Dominique's relationship with that franchise spans more than 4 decades. He has been a player, a broadcaster, an ambassador, a front office figure, and the living human symbol of what the Hawks mean to Atlanta. That relationship has generated income consistently throughout his post-playing career. But more than the direct income, his association with the Hawks has made him one of the most connected men in Atlanta's business community. The Hawks ownership group is made up of some of the most powerful business people in the city and the South. Through the Hawks, Dominique has relationships with people who have opened real estate deals, investment opportunities, and partnership arrangements that would be invisible from the outside. This is how serious wealth actually works. It's not just about the things you can see, the house, the cars, the business portfolio. It's about the rooms you can walk into and the conversations you can have because of who you are and what you've built. Dominique Wilkins can walk into any business room in Atlanta and be immediately taken seriously. That is an asset that never shows up on a net worth estimate. The legacy, what Atlanta owes this man. Here's the honest truth about Atlanta and Dominique Wilkins. Before Dominique, there was no NBA culture in Atlanta. The Hawks existed, but they were background noise in a football and baseball city. Nobody outside of Georgia cared about the Atlanta Hawks. Dominique Wilkins made Atlanta a basketball city. He showed up every night and played like the game owed him something. He put on a show that made people who had never watched a basketball game in their lives buy tickets and show up. He was so spectacular, so consistently jaw-dropping, that Atlanta had no choice but to fall in love with the sport. Everything that came after, the Hawks' continued relevance, the All-Star game the city has hosted, as the basketball culture that permeates Atlanta today, traces back to what Dominique Wilkins built in the 1980s and 1990s in that arena. And then, after the playing was done, he stayed. He didn't take his name and his money and his reputation and go build something in a different city. He stayed in Atlanta and used everything he had to make the city better, to build businesses, to create jobs, to mentor young people, to invest in property that needed investment, to show up when the community needed him to show up. That is rare. Athletes come through cities all the time and take from them. Dominique Wilkins came to Atlanta and gave everything he had and then kept giving. In a city that has produced billionaires and moguls and music empires and film studios, Dominique Wilkins might be the most important wealthy black man Atlanta has ever had. Not because of the number, because of the relationship between the man and the city. He didn't just get rich in Atlanta, he made Atlanta richer. From a house with 11 kids in Washington, North Carolina, to a Buckhead estate with a pool and a private gym and a real estate portfolio that most developers would envy. From the kid who had nothing to the man who owns a piece of everything in the city that claimed him. Dominique Wilkins is not the loudest name in Atlanta wealth. He doesn't need to be. Loud people are usually trying to convince you of something. Dominique doesn't have anything to prove. The work is done. The assets are real. The legacy is locked. He is proof that the greatest investment you can make is not in a stock or a building or a business. It is in a city, in a community, in the people around you. If you invest in them and they invest back, the returns are bigger than anything you'll find on Wall Street. Atlanta gave Dominique Wilkins everything, and Dominique Wilkins gave it right back, with interest. Which part of this story hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments below. And if you want to see more stories about black wealth that doesn't get talked about the way it should, subscribe to the channel. We're just getting started.